Hi everyone, this is your guest host for tonight, Casey, and with me I have Shoto, who's a fan favorite by now, and Yash. Welcome to the Shambles United podcast. And this time, I believe what we have is a very different take on transfers at Manchester United. Welcome, Shoto. Welcome, Yash.
Thanks,
Hi.
Casey.
Good to be back.
United's transfer policy is not shambles anymore.
Exactly what I meant to say. That's precisely what I meant when I said, a completely different outlook on what transfers look at United. I remember having grown up looking at rumors of us being linked to a million other players and ending up signing one or two along with someone like a Bebe or Anderson for that matter. Uh, but then this is a completely refreshing change. We've already seen what Murtaugh is capable of, what Fletcher is bringing to the table, and already we can see that this is less talk, more action. And let's jump right into it. Jadon Sancho. We spent the entirety of last summer and probably, according to rumors, a little bit of the season before that, chasing after the player, filling a position that we've believed has been vacant ever since Cristiano Ronaldo left. We have not been able to fill that void, and this was one player that we believe, can fill in the void. A player that suits our mentality. He's young, he's English, he's played with majority of the players at the team, and finally we've gotten him for a lot lesser than what was quoted last season. So Yash, what do you think? Was it worth the wait 1 year, having reduced the price, or what exactly are your thoughts?
Honestly, I don't really think it was worth the wait. I guess it was a difference of around 30 million pounds or 40 million pounds. So I don't think it was worth the wait, but in the end, we are getting like a really good player with a really high skill ceiling. And he solves not just the right wing problems, but like the kind of player he is, he's very versatile. So we know that Rashford's going to be going under surgery for his shoulder injury, so he can kind of slot in on the left as well. Greenwood's pretty accustomed to the right by now, so we're getting like Sancho's accustomed to playing on the left as well. He started off slow last season, maybe because of like all the transfer issues with United, but then he picked up really well. He got, I think, 8 goals and 12 assists in the Bundesliga. He played really well in the Champions League as well, and he had like a stunning performances in the Pokal as well. So yeah, we're getting like a really good player. He's just 21 as well. Yeah, like the price tag, obviously pressure is gonna be on him. But then like the bright side to this is at least he doesn't have the tag of like the 100 million plus player on him. So that at least reduces the pressure a bit. Coming in at maybe 120 or 115 last year, what Dortmund wanted would have added like a lot of pressure on him. And he probably would have had the added pressure of having the number 7 jersey as well. Right now he's taking 25, which I personally think is the right move for him. So it'll like it remains to be seen whether he can emulate the same performances in the Premier League. But I'm pretty confident that with Bruno, Cavani, Pogba around him, or potentially Pogba around him, we are. I think we'll get to see a really good side of him this time.
Absolutely, it's been something, like I said, it's been a missing area for United for over what 13 years now, since Ronaldo left us.
Ronaldo left.
Yeah, we've tried a variety of players, and we all thought the piano man would be the signing for us that might overturn things. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. Shoto, how excited are you about the arrival of Jadon Sancho? Finally, after, I don't know, agonizing 13 odd months.
All I need to say is yes, X. That summarizes everything. I mean, he's one of the topmost playmakers in Europe. I think Lionel Messi tops the charts. After that, is Jadon Sancho. And Nani was doing a bit of a good job when he was there in the right hand side. Then he tapered off. Then we had Valencia. Then we had the piano man turning up. So
let's not forget Ashley Young. Okay.
Oh, Yash Young. Yeah, he was decent for some time, to be honest. But although again he tapered off because of his age and everything. But at the end of the day, he fills in a lot of void. As Yash mentioned, he does help us when Rashford is out. He brings in the winning mentality, which our squad has been lacking since 2 years now. We haven't won anything. He has been winning, and he is very exciting. He has pace. He will help out Bruno with, say, creating a lot more chances through left and right both. He can fill in the voids, and wherever say Bruno is being pocketed by some CDM, he can't function as the favored 10 role. He might be in 8. Then Jadon Sancho can come down from there to the 10 side and help the creativity forward. Furthermore, it will also help Pogba to transition, if I'm not wrong. Even if we don't sign a CDM or a holding midfielder, it will create a lot of space for Pogba to operate and let him take a little bit of time and then open up the field again.
I'd just like to add something about the Sancho creativity part of it, because even though Rashford and Greenwood are like brilliant players, and we've been playing Rashford on the left and Greenwood on the right for the last entire season or so, the thing about both of them is like they are essentially like wide forwards of sorts. So the first instinct that they have when they have the ball is to like they are always looking to score rather than to cross it to Cavani or create something for the other player. So the entire creativity burden fell on Bruno. That is why Pogba was being deployed on the left a lot of time last season. What Sancho brings is that he isn't the kind of player who has an eye for goal 100% of the time. What he is looking to do when he has the ball is to cross the ball inside or play it to someone, create chances basically, and that's what that is going to help Bruno a lot. And it's going to help Cavani also a lot, because last season a lot of times what we saw from our wingers was that in really good spaces they wouldn't just cross the ball, and if Sancho is going to be getting into those spaces, I think it's going to be a really fun thing to be watching Sancho creating chances and Cavani just putting those to bed.
Just to augment your the argument that you're putting in, say, looking at Sancho playing with Haaland as well as Bellingham, doing that 1-2 quick 1-2, that will again help us break down low blocks, because that is what is very important. And I completely agree. Greenwood and Rashford, they like to attack. They are more of ball carriers rather than creators, although Rashford is a second best creator, if I'm not wrong, after Bruno. But still, Sancho would do a lot of wonders for our creative department.
So there's two things essentially from the entirety of what you guys have mentioned. The first part, obviously, having a true right winger, I think he's one of the last remaining out and out wingers that we have currently, because the way the game has developed, there are not many left. I think since Beckham, I have not really had the the pleasure of looking at a player and saying, okay, yeah, this is a guy who hugs the touchline and basically will cross every chance he gets. Because of the way the modern day fullbacks function, the creativity burden more or less falls on the fullbacks, and the wingers are expected to go inside, cut into the box, and try to score more often than create. But Sancho is a player that can and is more interested in doing the former rather than the latter, and that's what makes it so beautiful. Because if Shota, I believe you remember, we used to play FIFA back in college together, and the true United way of playing was always like go to the byline, cross the ball into the box, and try to head it in. Now with a center forward like Cavani in our ranks, maybe just for the next one season, that would be a delight to watch, absolutely. And not to mention the fact that Van Bissaka has been doing a one-man show on the right flank, and
Yep.
honestly, it helps him out a lot when he knows that there is a proper out-and-out right winger in front of him that he can probably overlap but not have to worry that much about creating. So, it gives him a lot of leeway in terms of how he performs. And the
True.
second point I was trying to make is, with a young English core of Mason, Sancho, and Rashford, who will probably be leading the line for United for the years to come. Rashford is 23, Sancho is 21, Mason is 19, and so you have an average age of 21 for your prime attacking forwards, and they're all English. They play together at the national camp as well. That synergy, the amount of synergy that they'll have between them, I think that will not only benefit England but also United. I mean, both the scenarios and both the setups at a massive level. So that's one thing. And now, coming back to the whole point of Van Bissaka and why he is so happy to have had a signing like Sancho. We have someone else that I believe, if you told me at the start of the transfer window that we would be signing, I would have laughed it off, saying, okay, this is not happening in my dreams as well. We have somehow managed to snatch Rafael Varane, one of the best centre backs in the world right now, World Cup winner with France, and a 4-time Champions League winner with Real Madrid, for a fee that is essentially peanuts if you compare today's market. What are your thoughts on that? And do you guys actually believe that at the start of the window you thought, or you even in your wildest of dreams believed that we would get him?
Oui. Champions League Varane, oui. We definitely I would have dreamt of him in FIFA. I would have transferred a lot of players to get him in as well. But having done that piece of business at such a low cost and so swiftly, it's really something praiseworthy to be to usher in such a huge, like, great player. Not one of the greatest players, but very good player, because he has more Champions League victory than United as a whole. United has 3, he has 4 of them. And if you had to go into a lab and create a perfect foil for Maguire, you would get a player of Varane's mold, quite similar to Varane itself, who is good in the air, who is athletic, who has good pace, who can cover the counter attack, who is a serial winner.
And he can pass the ball.
Sorry?
And he can pass the ball pretty well.
He can distribute the ball really well. He can switch the play very well. In fact, he is among the top 10-15% of pass completion rates when it comes to switching plays, and that will again help players like Rashford, Greenwood, again Sancho as well, and this will help Bruno as well, not being burdened about creating everything. Now, once, say, we can play a higher line, which Ole wants to play, and give a lot more chance to Maguire to actually break in the balls before they start coming into our half of the field. He will be helping us counter the counter. He will be helping us switch the play whenever we can create a overload. Because in the meantime, when we were playing against low blocks, the problem was all of our players played medium to short range passes. No one was playing the long range passes, and Varane will be helping in doing utilizing that overload. And I believe he will help Maguire to go into the next level again, because it will be like Vidic and Ferdinand reincarnated.
Okay, now that I believe that is a comparison that we have made in the past and kind of suffered because of the comparison or the players that we made the comparison to. Let's not forget that Varane could have been at United back in 2011, and he did not sign for us essentially because of a player that he was scared he would lose his starting position to, and that player is still in our squad. Let me remind you, and that player has not played a combined total of the number of games in the last 5 seasons that Varane has played in a single season. And if anyone is actually confused as to who I'm referring to, it's Sir Phil Jones. But yeah, I completely agree. The amount of synergy, and like you said, if you had to build a perfect partner to Harry, it would be a real life version. You could not get closer to it than with Varane. So I believe that's a great piece of transfer business that we've kind of wrapped up. The player wanted to come to United, which is a great addition, especially considering the fact that there are a lot of reports that mention Real Madrid offered a lot of money, and still he kind of wanted to come to United because he wanted the challenge and he always wanted to sign for us. There have also been a lot of reports saying that okay, he has always liked United as a club and he wanted to be here. So we want players like that. Like you can see a clear cut DNA with respect to the kind of players that Ole is trying to sign. It's been 3 years and you can see a clear shift. We are no longer going for mercenaries. We're going for players that actually want to play for the badge. They want to play for the jersey. They don't want to just come here for the money, and that in itself is a major improvement. And Yash, just want to kind of ask you, after having seen, since Sir Alex retired, we saw Rio and Vidic being phased out, Evans being sold way too early, according to me, John O'Shea also being sold off, and us having signed various defenders, and finally we signed someone who we know is, world class player. Uh, how does it feel to actually have a backline that is no longer your problem?
Yeah, like the backline is one thing, but it just feels so refreshing to sign a player of this quality and like a proven player of this quality. It's not like Sancho, where we are getting like a young talent with like a high skill. We are getting a player that, basically won everything there is to win in club football. I think he's won 3 La Ligas. He's won, I think, 4 Champions Leagues. He's basically won everything there is to win in club football. I think he's even won 4 FIFA Club World Cups. So, I mean, we are basically getting like a, not something that is a work in progress, but a finished article. And it's very odd thing to say because, we haven't signed a player like this since I don't even remember we did this. So it's very refreshing. And, as far as the back line is concerned, yes, he does complement Maguire very, very well. But there's one more, he complements Van Bissaka also. It helps Van Bissaka also so much because, Van Bissaka last season, we always saw him. It was a frustrating thing to see that, he always used to tuck in towards Lindelof. One, because Lindelof is pretty shit in the air, and secondly, he's pretty slow. So Varane solves both of those problems. He's tall, he's very good in the air, and not just because he's tall. Statistically, it's proven that he's insanely good in the air. He's fast, so he does not have. So Van Bissaka does not really have to cover for Varane. And again, removing Lindelof out of the defense and putting Varane in, it kind of frees up. If we were to play a pivot with McFred again, McTominay can basically stop worrying about the defensive side of things, and he can start being the more box-to-box midfielder that he is. Just because we can play a higher line, and if we don't sign another good midfielder, and if we stick with McFred, so Varane solves so many problems for us, and it kind of balances out the team in a much bigger way than just Sancho if he would have signed Sancho, would have, because right now, if you look at it, like Sancho solves a right wing problem, and Varane kind of solves a right defensive half sort of problem, because Maguire and Shaw are pretty good on the left side, and they had Rashford in front of him. They have Maguire, Varane, Van de Sar, right now, Sancho. So it's a really balanced side. We just need a good CDM, and we'll be like a really good. We should be contending for the title if we have a good CDM. And even if we don't have a CDM, we should be pushing at least 80, 85 points at least this season. So yeah, I mean, I'm over the moon for that we have Varane, and for the price for the price that we got him, it's kind of an insane deal. So 34 million plus add-ons is the rumored price for him, and even if all of those add-ons were achieved and it goes up to, let's say, 15 million, it's still
It's a good return
such a
of
good deal.
investment.
It's such a good deal. I mean, I still can't believe it that we've got a player of this quality for this price. And I think for us to get Varane and Sancho for, I guess, 110 million, I guess. 110, around 110 million.
Yep.
It's an insanely good deal, because that is the price for which we would have got Sancho.
Just Sancho last season, yes.
And adding to what Yash has been saying. See, United, apart from Leeds, has considered the second most set piece goals.
Exactly where I was heading to.
Yeah, very good point.
Varane will actually help us there. In fact, Varane has scored the most number of headers. If we compare, if we count him as a United player, than anyone else in the United scores since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer signed with us. And that will again create a lot more effect when we go ahead as well in the set pieces.
Yep.
Yes, and respectively, if we look at the Europa League final, hypothetically, if we had Varane, I don't think we would have conceded the goal that we did. Even with Maguire out, we had Bailly and Varane instead of Bailly and Lindelof. If you remember correctly, yeah. So Lindelof was the one that lost the battle with.
He was the culprit. Yes.
In the goal, yeah, he was the culprit, and that was because he was pretty shit in the air. I don't think this would have happened with Varane in there, and we would have played a lot higher, because they were just sitting back. So it would have helped us a lot. So I think a lot of the goals that we conceded last season, at plays basically, like you said, would have been avoided with Varane in the defense.
Yeah, I mean, essentially that's what you kind of build up to, right? Like, first thing is you allow that freedom for your holding midfielder to be a little more deep lying, because one of your centre backs is fast enough to cover for it. Second, you allow the creative freedom, or rather that marauding run that Maguire so loves to make from the back of the defense down, thinking as if he's the next Solskjaer. But he is pretty successful in doing those runs, making those runs, right? So you need someone who can cover for him, and Varane is definitely that person. And now with when you pair a Lindel, when you remove that Lindelof and replace him with someone like a Varane, and now when you're defending your set pieces, you also have a leader that knows how to organize his defense. This is one point that we kind of have been lacking. We have Harry Maguire, who's the captain of the club, but he still does not seem to be that capable of leading the line in the defensive area. But having someone like a Varane alongside him might actually give him that extra confidence to be more assertive and have that additional help, have a second in command that will also make sure that his commands are being followed. So that is one aspect, and definitely, like Shadhu said, or rather you said, Yash, going forward, we've been terrible with respect to how we take our set pieces. Now we actually have an aerial threat of scoring goals from set pieces, assuming we actually put in the right balls, which was a major concern up until 2 years ago. Thankfully, no longer is.
Who will be the MVP for us this season it would be Ramsey, who's the set piece coach.
Hmm.
He will actually help us a lot.
Interesting take on that.
Yeah.
The other signing that I believe not a lot of people actually even consider to be a major signing is Tom Heaton that we've signed as a United product. He's come back to us. He has loads of Premier League experience. Is a great shot stopper and has an amazingly loud vocal presence in the box, which is something both of our primary keepers lack at this moment. And I think that is one thing I believe that adds a lot of value. I mean, if you had to ask me, irrespective of whether Dave stays or not, that is the one aspect that I want both of our primary keepers to learn from Tom, is the fact that how can you be so loud, so vocal, and make sure that your defenders actually play along with how you want them to be organized during a set piece. Because that is just one thing that Heaton has made absolutely and abundantly clear in the two preseason games that he's played. He just makes sure that doesn't matter who's playing in front of him, could be Rio, could be Vidic, could be Tuanzebe, they just have to follow whatever he's saying, because he's the man in charge, he's the man in the goal, he's the man between the sticks. So that is one thing that I absolutely believe will add a lot of value to our goalkeeping roster. What are your thoughts on that?
So yeah, he is like a good addition to the squad. I mean, he brings loads of experience, but then I still feel if like signing Tom Heaton back, we really should be getting rid of one of Dean Henderson or David De Gea. And like, even though I love David De Gea, I personally think that the kind of players that we have signed right now, especially Varane, we will be playing like a higher line, and that kind of football suits like Dean Henderson better than De Gea, because Dean is much more of a sweeper keeper than Dave is. So I think Dave needs to go. Whether that is going to happen, that is pretty doubtful. So Tom Heaton coming in and Dean Henderson being our first choice keeper, that is going to help Dean a lot, because obviously, like you said, Heaton has like loads of Premier League experience. He's vocal in the box, so he could learn a lot from Tom Heaton in training, and like much more from what he would have learned from basically League and these couple of one season or so. Yeah, so he's a good signing, but in that case, I think Dave needs to go, because then Tom will be playing maybe the cup games or whatever games that the secondary competition games that are going to be played. So yeah, Tom Heaton is a good signing, but yeah, like he won't be playing if Dean Henderson and David De Gea both stay at the club. Yeah, so I think it's good for Dean Henderson's development, but then if he's not going to play, if Tom Heaton is not going to play, then it seems like a little bit of a redundant move from United. So
I mean, Shoto, like, basis what Yash says, it did seem at the time when we signed Heaton that, it was a clear sign that one of Henderson or Dave, which more essentially Dave, would be leaving the club, because, you don't really want your highest paid player at the club to be a rotational option, and especially considering the second half of last season, Dean Henderson was clearly the first choice. So you really don't want your top paid highest earning player at your club to be someone who is only going to get let's say 30% of the games. It doesn't really look good on doesn't really reflect well on the club. I mean, obviously our wage policy and everything has been shit in the past, but with how Ole has been managing it, it doesn't really look good. And but then there are no potential buyers for Dave. So how do you see that unfolding? Because I don't think any club can afford his wages. nor can they pay us a decent sum to go ahead and buy him. The only club that really wanted a goalkeeper was probably PSG, but then they went ahead and bought Donnarumma on a free transfer and paid a shitload of money for Mino Raiola. So if at all they have had to leave, who do you think has the financial muscle to go ahead and buy him?
To be honest, at this moment, no one, because Spain had he would have gone to Real Madrid, but all the Spanish clubs are having a huge issue with the pandemic, their revenues being hit, and La Liga having a strict budgetary policies in place. So I don't think him going to the La Liga is an option at all. Apart from this, looking at how finances play out, he might go on to play for
Juventus?
some English club. Juventus is also having an issue with the finances, if I'm not wrong. They have had to reduce a lot of wages. They have become old lady again because there are so many players who are old who are playing for there right now at the moment.
But they do need a goalkeeper, and they were chasing Donnarumma for a while, but they couldn't eventually land him.
If things change a little bit in terms of the finances for most clubs, I think next season De Gea would be going off. Not this season at all, because no one has the monetary might to actually take him on, because it's he's on such a huge pay scale. Plus the finances to get his deal done would be huge, and I don't think any club would be wanting to spend that much of amount to get a declining De Gea at their club.
And just to add to that, I mean, Juventus are, they Locatelli is basically the number one target this summer, and they are even struggling to come up with a good offer for him right now. They're making pretty stupid offers to Sassuolo, and I mean, if anything above 20 million, 25 million in cash, they're struggling to come up with. So I don't really see how they'll be able to afford, I think, 350,000 wages of David De Gea plus a transfer fee to United, because United aren't going to let him go on a free.
Absolutely.
So it's basically impossible for I'd rule Juventus out of it. No other Italian clubs are even remotely close to being able to afford him. Real Madrid are basically saving up every cent they have. Perez is saving up every cent that he has for Mbappe. Barcelona are struggling to even register the current crop of players that they have. So, and PSG already got Donnarumma and they have Navas. So outside of England, I don't really see any club that is going to be able to afford him this season. Within England also, all the top clubs have their own good keeper. So basically City have Edison, and we will basically never sell to City. Liverpool have Alisson, and they will never go for De Gea as well. And I mean, the situation looks pretty bleak if our priority is to sell Dave this summer. So it's going to be another season of Oli managing De Gea and Henderson.
Actually, see, it's a good conundrum to have. Because De Gea, whatever rumors have been coming out, he doesn't want to fight for his place, because he is being superseded by Simo in the Spanish team as well, and as sometimes he has issues with his temperament, but at this point in time, I always have believed that De Gea would want to come out on top at many situations, because he's been such a stupendous goalkeeper for us when things were very bleak for us. I still believe he'll fight for his place over here. Same thing goes out to another one of our players who has depleted their stock. It's Martial. So Martial and De Gea are going to have a make or break season this time around.
Didn't we already have an episode entirely on Martial, whether or not we should have?
We did.
I believe that is a debate that never ends, honestly. But Shoto and Yash, you both make amazing points with respect to what could be or what should be the case. But Shato, what you say, it would be a very small amount of chances from what I feel would be available for De Gea, and
Yes.
he will have to perform out of his skin, play out of his skin in order to make sure that he shows that he is still the player that saved our asses, back in the
So
LVG
many
era.
times.
Yeah, a countless number of times. He is the person that still kept us relevant. And funny story, when Varane was about to be announced, or rather Varane was announced, okay, there is no fax machine bullshit, right? That was the first question that all of us were like, okay, no more fax machine stuff, and like, please email it. But yeah,
True.
so that being said, we've more or less made the right transfers, pun intended. What
Mm.
now we feel we lack is, that one holding midfielder, which Ole clearly mentioned that he wants to play a 4-3-3, or rather a 4-2-3-1, but with
Yes.
just that one holding midfielder, where he allows that freedom for. I mean, it's more of a 4-1-2. What do you call 4-1-2-2-1, right? Where you're playing two wide,
Mm.
two wingers, one forward, one playmaker as number 10, and you have uh, one more, two more midfielders, with one of them being like the box to box and one being your completely
1-6,
defensive
1-8.
pivot. Yeah, exactly. You have a 6, 8, and a 10. So, obviously, people believe Bruno would, without a doubt, be the 10. Pogba might be the 8, might not be the 8. If Pogba leaves, Van de Beek might be the 8. There's a lot, there's a ton of speculation with respect to Pogba's future, but then the one thing that we really lack at this point is that number 6. That,
Yes.
essentially that one person who can be the destroyer, who can break down play, and who can completely stop any counter attack or any type of attack in the midfield itself, win that battle comprehensively, something that we've not done for a while. We've lost the midfield battle, even though we've put in 4 players at times, in the middle of the park. Yet we've come out on not come out on top, which is not a great thing for us to have. We've been linked with quite a few options. Declan Rice has always been, is a name that's been floating at the top of the list for a while now. Kamavinga was, thrown into the mix, who's still available for a cheap. But it's pretty evident that, like we said, our transfer policy is that we will only go for our top priority target. If we cannot achieve them, only then we will look at alternatives. And the latest name that has been thrown in and that we're being heavily linked with is Ruben Neves. So,
Yes.
who exactly do you think would be a person that would fit the bill perfectly and was also achievable, without being completely absurd in terms of pricing? Because Declan Rice seems to either have his heart set on a move to Chelsea, or is simply just too overpriced. The rumors, or rather the reports that have come in, have some figure close to, or at least above 70 million pounds, which seems ridiculous. So, what are your thoughts on that? Who do you think will fit in and is affordable?
Yeah, sure.
So,
I'll start.
yeah, so like affordable, I think in terms of affordability, I think we can definitely rule out Declan Rice. We like, to be completely honest, I don't think we're signing him this summer, nor are we. I don't really think we're signing him next summer as well. So I would, like, if I Camavinga, we were heavily linked to him. We are being heavily linked to him, but again, he also seems to want to move to Spain rather than coming to England. And and Camavinga is not really like, he can be molded into a defensive midfielder, but from what I've seen of him so far, he isn't really like, the standalone defensive midfielder, and he's pretty young. So, it could be another Donny situation where, Oli can just basically say he's young, he's training well, he's developing, and, not use him much. So it could be one of those situations. Um, I would probably, I think Zakaria would be a smart signing. I mean, he wouldn't cost much. He is a good defensive midfielder, and even if he does not perform up to the standards that we expect, it wouldn't be a complete waste of money because he is definitely better than the defensive midfield options that we have right now. So it would be a step up from what we have right now. Zakaria, I think, is a pretty smart signing. Apart from that, Neves, I'm not really sure if he can, be that standalone destroyer because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I see him as more of an 8 rather than more of a 6. But I could be wrong over there. Apart from that, a realistic target would also be Bissouma, but I don't really think there is even one report of us being linked to him. So I think
No,
Zakaria would be a pretty smart signing. I mean,
honestly,
nobody's being linked to him right now, and he did come in pretty cheap as well. So I think, yeah, I mean, he's pretty achievable, and he fixes one problem at least to a certain extent.
so that's the one thing, right? Zakaria has been pretty decent of late, and like you said, not a lot of clubs being linked to him, and Neves is definitely available on the cheap. I would definitely consider him if we were to sell Pogba. He would be a great player who can give competition to Van de Beek for that number 8 role. I believe he can play the 6 pretty well, and he's got a great long range pass. He has an
Yes.
amazing he's got one of the best set piece abilities, and not to forget the fact that
Long range
he's,
shots.
yeah, that too. He could basically bring us back to the days where we relive the Scholes era, given that amazing long range shot that he has. And not to forget the fact that he's Portuguese, he has a great connection with Bruno, and that alone, I believe, upgrades his ability by at least 15 to 20%, because he has got a great chemistry with Bruno, and there's obviously going to be that. But one more name I want to throw in, Shoto, that I kind of read up on a couple of reports. Not really sure how concrete they are. Is Marcelo Brozovic. He is a
Okay.
great player, plays the perfect role. He is exactly the kind of player that we are looking for. He's that destroyer in midfield that we really need. And according to reports, he is available for a pretty affordable price as well. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like, would you want to see Brozovic at United?
Brozovic's main issue is his pace. I wouldn't count on him. He is like Matic 2.0 when Matic was younger, but his pace is lesser than Neves. Neves is at the moment.
Neves is a mug. Neves has no pace at all.
I
Uh, so when you say he's slower than Neves, I mean, obviously that does make a huge impact. But then, you have runners all around him. For a defensive midfielder, do you really think
true.
pace is what
No,
defines
we
everything?
don't require that. But in like if you have to take say a defensive holding midfielder who is not a ball carrier. Now, like we were talking about Camavinga a little time back. Camavinga is a very good ball carrier and he's a very good ball progressor as well. He is a combination of both. He tackles really hard. He has huge tackle numbers. And you know who also has a huge tackle number? It's Neves. Neves is in the top 90, like he's in the 95 percentile of all 5 top leagues. And he has an amazing, long range ball. Now uh, talking about say Brozovic, I'm not too sure about his distribution skills as well. Now coming to Zakaria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Zakaria is a good option, but Zakaria, I think we were talking on the group. Like I was ringing out some names in the group a few days back. And someone mentioned that Zakaria had regressed after coming to Mönchengladbach. Maybe he just requires a little bit of change. But when you're looking at pass completion, his passes, he carries the ball well. He blocks, a lot of ball, like plays in between. But his range of passes is short to medium, which again, Fred, he's a kind of, passer of the Fred range. Not in terms of, say, McTominay as well. Now, with Varane, with Sancho, with all of our other players, and having pace a lot, and the kind of football that we play, we taken a lot of possession. We don't break in the opposition a lot of times. We don't give a lot of opportunity to Pogba to actually be free completely like he is when he plays for France. So I would actually go for Neves at this point in time. I know he's not a person who's a set destroyer, but he's a leader when it comes to, say, the midfield itself, because I think he was one of the most youngest Champions League captains at the age of 18 years or 18, 19 years for Porto. He has tabled in Wolverhampton at this point in time because
honestly, Wolves have had a terrible season last season. I don't think I would count any player having regressed at Wolves as something of their own, but definitely a function of the team as a whole. So
exactly, I was actually coming to that point because Wolves try to play through Neves a lot, like he getting the ball through to him and then him spraying it across the field. Teams have figured out that they need to actually stop that ball going to Neves and taking out Neves from the picture itself. Neves has he's on the top 5 interception making players in the midfield itself. Who are on top? NDD, Bissouma, I think McCarthy as well. And then, Fred is also there, surprisingly. And then comes Neves. And as I mentioned, he's in the top 95 percentile of like all the midfielders across the top 5 to make the number of successful blocks which he makes. Moreover, he does not go a lot ahead. So he's always in the back. And then he has his long range passes that he can spray around. He can help us break down and transition break down low blocks and transition the ball faster. And that will help us as a team because we have so many attacking players, people with speed, and he can also, like, whenever we ping the ball in, when the cross is not good, he can actually latch onto the ball when it comes out into the, say, out of the front 3 or front 4 itself, and he can take that shot down. So I would actually like Neves to come in the picture.
And honestly, for the price that's being quoted, which is around £30 million or less, I believe that's an absolute steal, because I think 1.5 years ago, if you had asked or rather inquired about Neves, he was being quoted at 100 million. But because of the lack of growth that has happened because of the way, or rather the dip in form for Wolves as a team as a whole, 30 million for a player like Neves, I would any day with my eyes closed go ahead and get it, considering the fact that we paid 50 million for Fred. I would definitely not think twice if I had to do that. But then we also have to consider the fact that signing a player like Neves, who's probably 25 currently,
24.
Okay, 24 right now, who will be in for the long term. We also have McTominay, who is in his early 20s. We also have Fred, who I am assuming might get sold. And you have someone in Garner who we believe will be the future in terms of that number 6 position. Right.
Yes.
So, you have a competition for places, but what exactly would happen to the players that we have right now? Like, you have Mata that has signed an extension, which I'm believing is more for the PR reason rather than for the on-field presence. He is a great influence in the dressing room, so that probably is one of the other reasons that we kind of gave an extension to Mata. There is a clear-cut surplus of players for a change in our team. Like we've started signing players well, but I think one problem that we have still not figured how to solve is how to get rid of players that we no longer want. We've already discussed the whole David De Gea issue. Probably this season is not the right time for him to move on because nobody can actually pay for him and pay him. Having signed Sancho, we have two very, very talented young right wingers in Ahmad and Pellistri. And I believe one of them have to move out. You have, Jesse Lingard, who everyone seems, even though is a great player to have around in the club because he's great for the club morale, for the team morale. He is a great presence in the dressing room. He keeps everyone, he is goofy. He, keeps it light. Yet, I believe he is someone who might not fetch a better price anytime later. So right now might be the best time to sell him. So that is one more player that we have. We might want to sell. Daniel James, I am not sure what exactly does his future hold, but then with Rashford going for a surgery, we might need to keep him. Cavani, I believe next season he might not be here. After this season starts, this might be the last time, or the last season that he spends with us. So there's that. You also have Paul Pogba, who's asking for a ridiculous amount of increment in terms of his wages, while having shown that he's absolute shit on the field and off the field. So there's that one problem, because if we do not sell him this season, we are not going to get anything for him next season, while paying a hefty amount of money in terms of his wages this season, and having a disgruntled player. We all know, having a Paul Pogba that is committed to the cause barely gives a 30% of games as 8 on 10. Having a Pogba that is not committed basically gives you 1 on 10 for about 90% of your games. So that is a bigger problem.
Wow.
And finally, you also have an aging Matic, who I believe, I don't know what purpose he serves. I mean, he's a great leader on the pitch when he can play, but it's clear that he can only play one game in a month. So, what do you do with him? You also have Eric Bailly, who is very clearly not happy with the management. He's made it very clear that, okay, he wants to have a lot of playing time and whatnot, but obviously that is not going to be afforded to him. You have your defense. You want Axel Tuanzebe to go on loan. You want Teres to probably, I don't know what you want to do with Teres. We have no idea what will happen to Diego Dalot. And you also have Brandon Williams that you're not sure what to do with. So, you have a ton of players that you're not entirely sure what to do with. So, of all these players, Yash and Shoto, you could probably take turns and walk me through your opinion of who do you think should stay, go out on loan, or just be sold.
You forgot about one player, dude.
Andres Pereira. Our preseason merchant.
and Pillow.
Yeah, so I would starting with the goalkeeper. I personally get rid of David De Gea, but that's not going to happen. In defense, we need to get rid of Jones. We definitely
Sir Phil Jones.
Sir Phil Jones.
See, I've started counting him out because I don't think he's ever going to pass a medical in order to be sold. So let's just forget about that.
The most surprising part was when Ole came and said that he had him in his plans.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is just to motivate Varane to play better.
Yeah. And right back, Dalot needs to be sold if we are going to sign Trippier, which seems to be likely for some odd reason. I don't know why. Midfield, I would personally sell Fred if we were to get another midfielder in, because we have Donny as well. Pogba, I would definitely sell him eyes closed if we are getting, let's say, around 60 million for him. even if we don't get another midfielder in, just like, because like we could finally, try Donny for a sustained period over there in that position. And I mean, if you sell Pogba for 60, you've got Sancho and Varane for a combined 110. So you're spending net 50 million on Sancho and Varane. That is like an insanely good summer, even if we don't sell anyone else. Attack, we have like a ton of players to sell. So we have to sell Lingard, we have to sell Pereira, we have to sell, not sell, I'd say we have to sell Pelistri out on loan. Dan James, I don't know. Personally, I like Dan James, so I would personally keep him just for his.
And let's not forget, he has had an amazing Euros, by the way. He has had an amazing, run out at the Euros.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a lot of flag and he gets a lot of shit from United fans and, or like people from all around the world. But I do think he's a good squad player to have. I mean, he's a good backup player. He's obviously not first 11 quality, but I would personally count him as a squad player. I don't know. I just feel he's a good squad player to have.
Let me just interrupt you, Yash. A very unpopular opinion, but if we don't get an offer about 20 million, I believe Jesse Lingard is a great squad option to have because he always gives 100% for the club whenever he's on the pitch. And that only if we sell Pogba and we do not actually sign anyone else to kind of fill in for that secondary role of number 8 behind as a second choice or a substitute for Donny van de Beek. Yeah, now go on.
And so, yeah, I mean, these are basically the players that we need to sell. And yeah, I can't really think of anyone else right now because, yeah, so I'd sell these players. And yeah, that's it.
And Shah?
Okay. Alright, so starting off, if Phil Jones is healthy, if he is healthy, man.
I would have given Donald Trump a higher chance of getting re-elected.
Okay. Now coming to Jesse Lingard, we would definitely want him off because, as you mentioned, Casey, he wouldn't fetch any best price of his lifetime at this point in time. Not maybe his lifetime, but at the moment, this is the best phase where we can actually cash in on his market value. Then we're looking at, say, Mr. Pre-season Andrepillo himself. He definitely needs to go off. He sold us a dream which he can never sustain. And he has played for Lazio a lot. Like, I think he played 33 times. He would be off there again, if I'm not wrong. Matic, I think we should be getting rid of him this time around. Maybe not in this summer, maybe in January. Just because let's see how the holding midfielder situation pans out. Although he's slow and he's prone to a lot of errors, there are phases in which he actually shows a lot of brilliance. Then Axel Tuanzebe, he'll be off on loan. That's a certain. Brandon Williams, we should be loaning out. Dallo, if we get a good deal, we should sell him off, or we'll send him again on a loan. And say if we don't get Trippier, then we should keep him, or maybe Brandon Williams. Either of these two. I would prefer Brandon Williams staying rather than keeping Dallo. Although Dallo has done well in the inverted wingback role, that I think the 4-3-3 formation would actually give him incentivize him to actually play that role. But still, I would prefer Brandon Williams staying if we don't get another attacking wingback option. Tuanzebe was definitely going off. Daniel, when you're looking at Daniel James, I think we can develop him into a very good wing back option, wing back and winger. He did have a very good Euro. He's a good squad player. I agree with you, Yash. But he's prone to a lot of mistakes, and I hope he can actually, improve on that. and okay, there are a lot of academy players that we will be talking about next time round. So that's there as well. Yeah, that's it.
I think one player we've conveniently forgot is Tai Chong, which
Tai Chong, he went on loan.
Yeah, but I honestly would
Yes.
have actually liked to see him being sold. I don't see a future for him at United at all. But I believe we've already kind of spoken quite a bit at length. So, I think now it's time for me to say thank you so much, Shoto and Yash. This was a wonderful discussion. I believe there's still a lot more to be discussed, and let's hope that there can be another episode on transfers that we've done. Before the end of the window next time round.
There's always the January window.
No, I mean before the end of next month, because we still
Okay.
have that much time for the end of the summer window. So let's hope we still get in that defensive midfielder and probably a backup right back in Kieran Trippier. So, let's see. Very hopeful, and Shot already gave out a little bit of a sneak peek into what the next episode is going to be about. So, thanks again, everyone. We'll tune back in for the next episode of Shambles podcast on the United Academy and how the youth squad has been doing.